Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rick Maher, and thank you for joining us today. I am the CEO and visionary of Turning Point Human Capital Management, and today I will be one of your co-hosts. Our other co-host today is Walter Contreras. He's the CEO and founder of Motiva. We'll have a more formal introduction in a moment or two, but so today our intention is to give you some ideas on how the modern office will operate as we come out of this pandemic. Our presentation will last about 25 minutes, and then there will be a question and answer session at the end. Please use the Q&A or chat function on your screen, and we'll answer all of the questions at the end. Additionally, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on each of our company websites and through social media in the next day or so. So please be patient. We'll make sure we get that out to you as soon as that is up and running. Additionally, there may be a poll or two that comes across as we go through this presentation. So please just add your information and we'll make sure that we address anything that is of interest to you. So today we're going to cover many topics, and in the spirit of full disclosure, Turning Point Human Capital Management is a client of Motiva's. They are a technology service provider. Why I thought it was so important to be a part of this webinar today is because the Motiva team prepared our business for this transition, and these are the steps that they took us through as we were preparing to go from the traditional office to the modern office. This agenda is the culmination of the things we struggled with, the items Motiva explained to us, the questions we had, and then ultimately how Motiva helped make it happen. So this list is comprehensive, and as many of us are trying to figure out what the term even means, modern office, Walter Contreras and his team have started to execute. And it's been the godsend to help us understand what we need to do and then to ultimately, as I said, execute. Although this is not a picture of me, several months ago as the leader of my business, these are the issues I struggled with. And as I'm not technologically savvy at all, these are the issues that scared me. Like most of us, quote unquote, normal was that we went to the office in the morning and we were together with our teams, and that was part of our success model. Well, now that is changing, or has already changed. Finally, as we looked at this transition to the modern office, we all thought about cost, lost revenue, and lost productivity. So clearly, ROI was always and will always be a chief concern of our business and really every business. So let me introduce, I'll introduce myself first. This is me. So as I mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Turning Point Human Capital Management. We are a fractional human resources consulting firm. We're focused on first or second generation family businesses that typically have between a handful and several hundred employees and are typically doing somewhere between $1 million and $50 million in revenue. So for those businesses, we started Turning Point. And the questions that we've gotten from our clients and contacts was, how do we build a modern office? And again, that was the genesis of bringing in our co-host here, Walter Contreras. So this is Walter. So let me just introduce Walter for a second before he jumps in. Walter has an amazing story of success, and I encourage all of you to reach out to him at some point. Walter knows business and entrepreneurship for sure, and that is one of the reasons a couple of the reasons why he's so successful at running a multinational business. He has clients and team members in several countries. However, what I love most about Walter as a business leader and a human is that he has faced many more personal challenges in getting to where he is as a business owner today. So he knows exactly how to deal with adversity. He understands creative thinking, and he's an expert in figuring out a way to achieve those goals, your goals. So again, I encourage all of you to contact Walter, as he's a true inspiration. And Walter will be answering questions at the end, and I'm very excited to hear what he has to say. So Walter, would you mind just jumping in and introducing yourself and anything that I may have left out?
What an introduction, Rick. I am just listening to you, and I'm amazed. Thank you so much for your kindness. Thank you for inviting me to do this. You and I talked about helping so many people, and we actually do help a lot of people. I want to personally thank you for being the first person to reach out to me during this pandemic and say, hey, what do you need? And at the time I was dealing with some employees issues, and I wanted to do the best thing for my team, and you guided me through that. You are my HR company. You're an incredible human being. I love you, man. And I really hope that everybody that's on this call gets a lot of this, because, the world is changing, as you said it. So it's an exciting time to pivot. It's an exciting time to do things differently and grow your business, because there's a ton of opportunities out there. Thank you for that intro, buddy.
Great. Thanks, Walter. All right. So Walter is our guy, and he'll be answering any questions as we go along. So let's go to the next slide. Come on, technology. Here we go. So the world has changed, right? As we all know, there are not many events in our lifetime that have affected business leaders so dramatically and on such a tremendous scale. We'll stay away from COVID-19 itself in this presentation, but rather focus on the impact the shutdown, pause, and quarantine has had on all of our businesses. Think about this unprecedented time. A national emergency was declared. Nearly 2 months of remote working. The term SBA loans. I think about this almost every day. A couple of months ago, there was no term PPP or EIDL, and think how they've taken over many of our business owners' thinking. So nearly every one of us knows the term PPP loan now. So the world, just in that, has certainly changed. But what has not changed is that business leaders still need their teams to achieve business goals and outcomes. And that will never change. So we now, as business owners, have to achieve these types of things in the modern office. The modern office is a remote office where technology will be the driving force. Think about this. There'll be no more water cooler talk. No more birthday cakes in the lunchroom. No more March Madness and Super Bowl pools. Those things may be a thing of the past. But what is not going away is the need for secure access to data, or the need to, or the ability to share ideas, and using new technologies to create efficient avenues to achieve all of our business goals. That is the new modern office, and embracing it and understanding it could be the difference between success and failure for many of us. So let's look at this. This is what our offices looked like BC. And I coined the term BC, which is before COVID-19, before March 15th, 2020. So side note, right? Think about March 15th. It was only 6 weeks ago, but doesn't it feel like a million years ago? When we look at this picture, it's almost as if we're looking at a Norman Rockwell painting, or an antique, or a part of Americana that is in the past. Think about that. We're living through a time where the office, not the show, the office has changed dramatically, right? So think about how that felt. Now, this is probably what your office looks like today. The They are idle and mothballed. So, think about this. What is our future? What do we do with the equipment we see in the screen? What do we do when someone is not sitting right next to us? When we can just reach over and say, hey, what do you think, right? So the new office, or the offices that we have today, are going to look very different post-pandemic, or AC, after coronavirus. So the fear is real, right? And the questions being asked, are we coming back, right? Are we coming back to the office? Are we coming back in our businesses? These are questions that are being asked out of fear, and they're, as I mentioned, they're real and they're valid. Personally, I am 100% confident that business will be coming back. With that said, I am absolutely certain that what the office looked like prior to March 15th, 2020, BC, before coronavirus, will not look the same on June 1st, 2020, AC, or after coronavirus. So think about that and how profound that is, and the time that we're living through. Think about this webinar. If we had been in our offices, many of us wouldn't have been on this webinar as it stands today. So the fear is real. There we go. So AC, after COVID-19, many of us are looking forward to the day where our moods, our hopes, and our dreams are not determined on a daily press conference and by what is said in that press conference. We've become like Pavlov's dogs, many of us, I know I have, salivating when the bell of a press conference rings. Our mental state of mind, our physical reaction, are dependent on each word that someone says that we've never met, right? Yet, here we are today, but one day soon, AC, after coronavirus, we will be building our modern office, right? So think about this time when we're not watching and waiting for updates from our political leaders, and we just get back to business. So as business leaders, control of our business is what makes most of us happy. In many ways, right now, we do not know the way forward. But what we do know, without getting political, that our business, what it looks like going forward, is still unknown for many parts of that. But what is known is that the preparation will be very important for AC, and what the modern, nimble office is probably one of the best hedges against the unknown. So preparation is key, right? Anticipating the challenges. We all remember the fable of the ant and the grasshopper from when we were children. Well, it's now our turn to be the ant, preparing, working, thinking through the challenges, and simply not taking anything for granted, right? So one of the things I say to folks is, think about if someone had said to you on January 1st, 2020 at 12:02 a.m., when we were all making our New Year's resolution, if someone said, hey, this year your business will be put on hold, you won't leave your house for 2 months, you won't be able to see your coworkers, friends, and family, and you're gonna still have to have your business succeed. Well, you would have looked at someone like me saying that, and you would have thought, boy, how do we get away from this person? This person's off the deep end, right? But yet, here we are. So here are some interesting facts that we've seen in our business, that in Turning Point's business, thanks to Motiva, Walter, and his team. I just thought this may help you think through what your modern office should look like and what your modern office should be able to accomplish. So even though this is not a picture of me, this was the thought process. These are the things that I struggled with. These are the things I heard that other business owners were struggling with as we were all entering this crisis. So over here. So as I'm doing my thinking, this is the question that I continually ask myself, and I ask it of other business leaders as well. Of course, so why haven't I let them work from home already? And of course, there are some businesses that cannot work remotely, but any office structure can. So think of the obvious, like an accounting office or professional services firms. Those are kind of quote unquote easier to move to the modern office. But even some of those that are not so obvious, like construction and manufacturing or restaurants or those sorts of things, many of those businesses have functions that can work remotely. So their office functions, their accounting, their bookkeeping, their sales, their customer service, etc. These can be modernized, and that may help those businesses in their business continuity and, not a matter of when, but if we have another problem, right? And the odds are we will have another problem in the short term, right? There might be a shutdown, not on this mass scale, but maybe a city or an area or a state, right? So we need to be prepared as business leaders to anticipate those problems and be able to react quickly to them. So again, but why haven't we let them work from home? Well, it's the obvious, right? So it's mainly things of fear. So we all have what I call the Netflix fear, right? The fear of our people just sitting around collecting a paycheck. That may be something we have to deal with in the modern office. This is an HR topic and a performance management that, is something we can address in subsequent seminars. But know this, and this is one of the most important things that I can say as I get ready to turn the rest of the presentation over to Walter. These fears are manageable, and they're manageable when the modern office is set up properly with proper process, procedure, technology, and training. So this is now where I turn this over to Walter. This is where the antique Norman Rockwell type of office has and is dying, and the life raft for all of our businesses is the modern office. And this is where I'd like Walter to kind of take over from here and chat about what the modern office looks like and how it's actually accomplished. So Walter, if you wouldn't mind, can you jump in here, please?
Thank you, Rick, and well said, by the way. Lots of these things that you mentioned have been going through everyone's mind. I do believe that generally everybody cares about, the different way of working in the future. So I want to make a quick disclaimer here. I do belong to a large organization of IT companies around the country. I work with some of the most elite IT guys, and I had this conversation quite a bit, right? Because in my mind, we as IT organizations have failed to communicate the message. And one of the messages is, do we still need those physical servers, right? Lots of us have moved certain components to the cloud, but we haven't really thought about being fully operational on the cloud. And this is a great moment to start thinking about these kinds of things. We're still relying on computers to do physical connections. We rely so much on hardware. And, I heard a lot of people during this time, including some of my customers, hey, I'm using this VPN. And if you're not familiar with that term, that's the way people are connecting remotely. Some people are connecting remotely to their office computer. The problem with that is if the VPN disconnects or your office computer shuts down, or God forbid you got a virus or a ransomware, you no longer have access to those remote computers. So that brings me to the problems that I see as the old way of working, like you were mentioning, Rick, and the new methods on how we're going to work in the future. We're still working like it's 1998, right? We're still remoting into computers. We're still, I had someone recently that they couldn't get into their office and their servers were shut down. So we need to start thinking about the different things. And you know, one thing that's really important to me that sticks up a lot, and you know this, Rick, from the HR and compliance piece of this, is that we're literally violating every cybersecurity law in the state of New York by remoting in not securely. So it's a really interesting time. And you know, hackers love this, right? I mean, they know that, and you mentioned this earlier, Rick, 4,000%, we've seen an increase in the COVID-19 scam emails. I mean, it's a massive scam going on. And I see Paul Tusa is on the chat too, and thank you for participating, Paul. He's been great at sending emails out, and he actually sent an email about that as well. IT managers are just at their maximum capacity, right? And networks are not being watched. Let's just face it, cyber criminals right now are more active than ever. And they know that you're vulnerable right now. So and for some of you that don't know the term shadow IT, it's a concept where, you know, your employees install applications on their computers without you knowing. Okay, it is a big problem, and we actually wrote an article with Newsday about it. It's a big problem because how hackers get into these systems at times is by unapproved programs installed on computers, right? And think about how that has been exploited now that your employees are working at home using computers that have never been updated. They probably had them somewhere, maybe their kid's computer, and all of a sudden they're remoting into your network and using those computers, right? So that's a huge thing, and shadow IT is a big problem. So a question I get quite a bit, Rick, is how do we fix these issues? And the real answer to that question, and the only answer to that question, is the modern office space. And one where you're no longer limited to, you know, that static seat, right? That desk, that office space that you went to. You're no longer bound to that physical space anymore. And who knows, in the future, like Rick was saying, there might be legislation coming out that says, hey, a percentage of your workforce has to now work from home, and you need to make sure that that's highly secure. And the new norm is working from home. And I don't believe that's going away. I actually think that there's going to be a percentage of people that will ask you, because they've proven the fact that they can be as productive, will ask you to work from home. And you as the business owner, and Rick, I don't know about the HR regulations, but some of them may ask people to just let employees work from home. So this is the new norm. And by the way, work from anywhere, right? Because think about the day, you know, we live in this 9-to-5 system where, you know, if the person is not sitting at that desk that I want them to sit at, they're not being productive. But the reality is that we have proven that actually people can work remotely and be as productive as they are in the office. And we have ways to manage that. Systems that can tell you whether or not that person is being productive and doing their work. So the real only way to do this will be utilizing cloud systems. Can you imagine if this pandemic happened 10, 15 years ago? I mean, who will be going to Blockbuster to pick up movies right now to watch them? Nobody. And the only reason why we're able to do this is because we have a cloud system now. And think about things like all of this computation that's occurring, from understanding how the virus works. All of this is being done because now we have access to this cloud system that is accessible to us at all times. So why haven't you heard so much about the cloud? And this is one of the things that I'm most passionate about. It's because there are certain pieces that people get very confused about the cloud. And hopefully, you ask questions on the Q&A and I make this clear, a little more clear than than before. But the Office cloud that I'm talking about right now is Office 365. And you guys are very familiar with Microsoft Office 365. You've seen the commercials. You probably have email hosted there, right? And you're only using a small percentage of what Office 365 can do. And so I want to explain to you a couple of the things with Office 365. And one of those is there's many, many tools, and I think Microsoft confuses people more actually at times. But I just want to give you a couple of pieces of information so you can start thinking, am I a good candidate to fully go cloud, remove those servers from my office, not have to rely on this hardware, and can I operate better securely and make sure that everyone operates correctly? So the reason why you don't hear a lot about these tools, and you probably hear more about email hosting than anything else, is because, let's face it, IT companies charge you per server. We charge you per server, per station. We want, the more hardware you have, the better. So we are afraid to lose those servers. The technology, believe it or not, some IT managers just simply don't understand the technology. They know one piece, but they don't know another, and it's difficult for them. It's a lot of work. The first time you move your systems to the cloud, there's a process to move you correctly, right? And there's a lot of misconceptions about, oh my God, the cloud is not secure. I will tell you, you will never have enough money as Microsoft to secure your networks locally as they do. And that is a fact, right? You just have to, it has to be done correctly. That's the key component there. And we all know Outlook and email continues to be the preferred method for communication. This is probably where most people will go first, email, because it's just easier to move to the cloud. And I would say that probably 90% of the people, small businesses, are on the cloud, whether it's Gmail or G Suite or Office 365 or some sort of a hosted email. But the one that I care about the most is those document managements. The reason why servers were created was mainly to control access to those files and folders and shares. And we're all familiar with how, the Office files and folders work. And I just want to show you a little bit about, SharePoint is a system that works in conjunction with OneDrive. That's a product. And everything that I'm talking about here, guys, is just one single product from Microsoft. And so I want to show you real quick, one of the things that we don't talk about a lot is how those files work. And this is what your server, if you have a server in your office, this is what your network shares look like, right? And they were bound by some sort of security, so maybe the accounting department didn't have access to certain things, and so on and so forth. So this is what the old looked like, and this is what the new looks like, okay? And as you can tell, this is a local computer. I took a screenshot of my computer, and I'm just showing you here that there's not a lot of difference between how it looks like in the past and how it looks like on the cloud. The only difference, as you can see on the right-hand side, is that these folders are not hosted on my local computers. They're hosted on the cloud. I have access to them, but they're hosted directly on the cloud. So, and by the way, it's hard to see, but there's a little icon on the right-hand side of the file, which means that it's a protected locked file. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I just wanted to show you that. And why I'm showing you this is because there's that misconception, oh my God, I lose the server. Do I lose my access rights, or are my people gonna have problems accessing things? They're not. It's the same thing. It just has to be done by a professional. It has to be done right. But once you set it up, think about the future. You'll never have to buy a server. You'll never have to do this again. And the other piece of this whole thing is, now that we're working from home, how is your team communicating? right? I mean, some of these tools we used in our office quite a bit, like Microsoft Teams, which is a chatting system that also does video conferencing, meetings, and all kinds of things, kind of like a Zoom. It's literally based on the old Skype technology. When Microsoft purchased Skype, they put Skype into this product and they give it to you for free as part of Microsoft Office 365. I can tell you that Microsoft Teams is an amazing product. We use it every day. It makes us feel like we're in the office, even though we're not. It's a direct communication within my team, so it's private to me. I can share files, folders, all sorts of things within Teams. If I'm on my mobile device and I'm somewhere else, I can start a phone call and a video chat. So the team feels very close when we're using Microsoft Teams. And I can give you a demo later on during the Q&A, but it's an amazing tool for internal communications. I had this lady on a webinar said to me, Walter, since you show me how to start using Teams, we're saving so much time. It used to take me 20 minutes just to get people into a conference room and then start the meeting, and we wasted like a half hour. And so by doing Microsoft Teams meetings, everybody gets in it right on time, right away, and they don't even have to get dressed to be on it. So the other big thing for me is, what are those approved programs or applications that now that your employees are working from home, are accessing remotely your data, are installed on those computers? And that's a big deal. Okay, we don't think about it a lot because we take it for granted, but I have the data to back it up to tell you that our antivirus systems are constantly killing programs that are trying to execute, which is called malware, by the way. Just because somebody went to like weather.com and they say yes to install everything, and all of a sudden you have a malware program in there that could at some point become a virus infection. And since you are connected through a VPN, your entire network is at risk at your office. Okay, so we had the data to back that up. Business continuity, Sandy was a big deal for us. We learned a lot about business continuity. Some customers are listening about backups and offsite things. Great, those are the ones that were more resilient. However, we're in 2020. Like, we shouldn't have to have so many pieces of hardware to be able to do our work. So I constantly think about the business continuity, because like Rick said at the beginning, he's fully on the cloud using 365. And he didn't have to think about, where I work from or what do I do. He just turned on his computer and he was up and running. So Rick, I don't want to bore everybody with more technical stuff. I think this is a good conversation. What do you say we open it up for Q&A?
Yeah, sounds great, Walter. And we do have a couple of questions here already. So one question that came in, the question is, do I still have control over who can access or download files?
Excellent question. So if you allow me, Rick, I'm going to share a little thing here that I have prepared for this kind of question. So I want you guys to understand that once you go into, and by the way, Microsoft Office 365 has many, many different licenses. You're not going to navigate that on your own. If you have a question, reach out to us. But I will tell you, once you use the proper license and it's done by a professional and the implementation is done, and like Rick said, you have to train your employees to use certain things, and then you lock it down. You lock it to the point where the only way for them to access your company data is through an authenticated method. And we talk a lot about multi-factor authentication, and for those of you who are not familiar about what multi-factor is, it's a method where you have to authenticate to a system a couple of times, either a text or some sort of an application that runs on your mobile device. that can say, hey, this is me, please grant me access to the corporate data. And only those people, and only those computers, and only those locations will have access to the data. So I'm gonna quickly show you a demo here. Let's say you have an employee working from home. They're using their personal computer, which by the way, it's a big problem too, but they're using their personal computer. And in this case, we installed our Office 365 security policies, okay? So they're accessing your data and they copy your data. Let's say this was not a happy employee and they were trying to copy your data. And they said, you know what, I'm gonna go to Dropbox.com, right? That shadow IT thing. And I'm gonna try to copy those files. So look what happens when you have data governance, right? Your files are protected and they have that lock on them. So that tells you they're protected. So if someone was going to Dropbox and they were trying to copy your data from anywhere, any external computer, whatever, the system will automatically tell them that they're not able to do so, that the files are being protected by the organization. What does that mean? That means that all your mobile device files, you know, and I know a lot of you guys give access to your employees' email, your corporate email on their personal phones. That's a huge no-no. Rick, you know this from an HR compliance. That's a huge no-no. And so the way we do these systems is everything is it's in a sandbox system where they only have access to it within a secure environment. So hopefully that answered that question, Rick.
Yep, excellent. We got a couple more here, so let's keep going. So the next question is, how would my clients access documents I need signed by them?
That's a great question. So signed documents, if they're being signed manually, Office 365, and Rick, you know this because of the PII, Personal Identifiable Information Cybersecurity Acts going on in New York, the SHIELD Act and the DFS Compliance Act, depending on what kind of business you are. But if you're holding any kind of personal identifiable information, you must have a very secure system to protect that, right? So, and you have to be in compliance. So, but for people who sign just physical sign, I will use something like a DocuSign and incorporate it within Office 365. I will use that all day long. And if you're sharing files, the way that Microsoft Office 365 does it is extremely secure. If you're sharing personal files, like I know some of you are financial institutions and you need to send, you know, maybe a form to be completed and it has personal information for your mortgage banker, you can send those via secure message, encrypt it, and only that user can get that message.
Great, thank you. So the next question we have, Walter, is how does the modern office work with my other programs like QuickBooks, or does it?
That's a great question, by the way. So what has happened recently is that there was this misconception that you had to have a server to run certain applications. And I will tell you, things like QuickBooks, you can just go on QuickBooks Online, and then QuickBooks is on the cloud. However, there's a lot of people that don't like to do that. And I get it because they don't want to share their financial information. They think Intuit is going to look into that stuff. So anyway, SharePoint now, when you have, and I think I shared on one of my previous slides before, SharePoint now allows sharing files directly from SharePoint, so they would look like this. Can you see my screen, Rick?
Yes.
So your QuickBooks files would look like this picture. So you can run and execute those files. They will be on the cloud, but your users can run QuickBooks from SharePoint.
Great. And so, Walter, the next question is, and right now it looks like the last question, so I'll if anyone has any further questions, please start to type them in now. So we got, actually we got a couple just popped up. So what about using multiple devices? So, you know, on Monday I log in with my laptop, on Tuesday I'm using my son's computer, and what about different devices? How is that addressed?
Yeah, this is a huge problem. The Office 365 license we recommend is the business premium license. That license allows for the user to have up to 5 devices. So, and I've never seen anybody go more than 5, by the way. So the typical employee would have a computer at the office, a laptop to travel, maybe an iPad, definitely a mobile phone, and maybe some other device at the house. So that user, we can protect up to 5 devices, and what we do is we install our security policies. And believe it or not, how that happens is quite simple. They just log on to the Microsoft portal on that computer, and those policies, if that computer has never been joined to that system, they never had access to that data, the first time it does it is going to apply security policies before it gives you access. Right? So within 5 minutes, those policies are applied, all your files are locked, that person cannot copy and paste anywhere. It was funny this morning because we drink our own Kool-Aid, so we actually had this in our office. I had this forever. But one of my guys texted me, I said, why is it taking you so long to get this done for me? He said, well, I can't copy and paste. So, and it's because we lock those files, the personal identifiable information, so we just want to make sure, right? So you can take care of up to 5 units for each person using this method.
Great. So we have a few more questions here. We're getting a bunch here coming through. So the next question, is SharePoint like Dropbox on steroids?
Look, you know me, I love technology. I don't bash on any type of technology. I love Dropbox. But see, the thing for me was always, Rick, like I'm already paying for Office 365. It has an extremely secure system. Microsoft stock right now is through the roof because they really done the cloud right. So why would I pay Dropbox or use a third-party system? Now I'm keeping security in 2 different systems. I'm paying 2 different systems. Why not keep it in one? Make sure one is highly protected, right? Manage it right. Make sure my data is, on SharePoint. When we talk about data governance, we talk about data security, and in SharePoint, I actually know when that person tried to copy the file. I can have Michael somewhere in the middle of nowhere working for me, and if he try to copy my book of business or export it out my customers list, and he's trying to copy it somewhere else, I'm gonna know that he tried to do that. I'll get a notification from the system. So why would I want to do that in different systems is the question I ask.
Yeah, so the follow-up question from another attendee is, I think probably along the same lines of answer, is your thoughts on Microsoft Bookings versus Calendly?
Same thing. Microsoft Bookings it's a product of Microsoft. It does the same. Actually, one would argue that it does a little bit better in terms of functionality because it's directly connected to Office 365, and I think they took me out today. But Microsoft Bookings allows you to, similarly to Calendly, to connect your calendar directly to a link, to a URL, so your customers can click on there and book time with you. And it's in one platform, right? Like what I'm showing you here, Rick, is part of that platform. This is Microsoft SharePoint, which is part of Office 365. Nothing that I'm showing you here is custom to me. I just took elements that are already part of this thing, and I built this internal, what we call intranet page for us. And as you can see here, I have access to my files right away. This is all based on access rights. So a person will see their files, and I'll see my files. There's folders here. If you have access to this folder, you will have access to that. All of our conversations, when we hit a record button on Microsoft Teams, which is a great tool, when we have a meeting and we're gonna save this for training, Rick, we just hit a record button and we go through the entire thing. and Microsoft Teams posts those automatically on our intranet. And all of this that I'm talking to you about is part of that one license. It's part of that one thing. You know, it comes with Microsoft Planner. You know, how many times you've gone into meetings, Rick, and you've given somebody a task to do, but, you know, we never give them a method to follow up. With Planner, you can create a task, assign it to somebody, and actually set up even due dates and things like that. So it's really, and everything is part of that 365 package.
Okay, we got a few more questions here. So the next question is, it's a two-part question, well, several parts. So what is your recommendation for new businesses just starting up using either Google Suite or Microsoft 365? And then from the same person, which cloud service is better when integrating with mobile applications and protecting mine and my clients' data?
So we were a G Suite house before. We actually used G Suite. I love Google products. I'm a big fan, but I also love business. And if you're running a business, you're never gonna have the tools that Microsoft has created for businesses. And they're all in one place, right? If I compare the features of Google, Cloud and Microsoft, they give you a ton of tools for business, much more than Google. The usability, Google is very easy to use, and I think that's the simplicity is what people like. We went through that battlefield a couple of years ago, and we just said, you know what? We want everything in one place. We want our chats, our conversations, our documents, all of our systems in one place, all of our note-taking, all of everything that we do, we want it in one place. We never want to think about another system. And so for those reasons, we opted with Microsoft. And, if you think about it, historically, when you started a business years ago, you got Microsoft Windows, you got Word, Excel, and you got a server. So this is just the next generation of that.
So the next question is, I have QuickBooks, but not the online version. Due to other software requirements, how or can we use the cloud if we don't and can't use the QuickBooks online version?
Yeah, so I want to address the previous question about mobile. So in terms of mobile access, all of these applications do a great job. Microsoft does have all these applications on a mobile format, so there really isn't a difference. Mobile is 100% accessible. This question is good, Rick. QuickBooks you can run directly from the cloud as a file on SharePoint, right? I was showing you guys before my files, and that's basically how you run it. In terms of other applications, the world has shifted with applications, right? I will have to know what type of application you're running, but any modern application today, they probably have a hosted cloud version of it, right? And if you are not able to move to the cloud for any reasons, some of these applications can actually be hosted on virtual machines on the cloud. So in any event, there's that business continuity that you can have using the cloud.
And then the next question is, how do I log into this program if I have it set up if there is no VPN?
Awesome question. So the concept of logging into a program, right? So for anyone on Office 365, you just go to the portal, right? And I'll show you the portal real quick. But you just go to this portal, office.com, and you log in and you have access to your files. Now, you could also have, if you authenticate through your local computer, meaning you say, hey, I'm going to use my computer all the time to access those systems, then you will enroll your computer. And when you enroll your computer, you now have your files, folders, and everything on your local machine. Now, keep in mind that they're on the cloud, so when you open them, that's when the system will access it, right? So if I open one of these files, Oops, sorry, I went to back. You know, any of these documents I open, right? They're sit on the cloud, but I can open them right away. You don't see it as my other screen, but it opened the PDF.
Great. So, Walter, I think you have answered all the questions so far and answered them beautifully. Before I ask my final question of you, Walter, can you let everyone know how they can connect with you if they'd like to learn more from this presentation?
Absolutely. So you can reach me directly at my email, and that is walter@motiva.net. You can visit our website, www.motiva.net. And my direct number is 646-374-1820.
So thank you, Walter. That's terrific. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. I'd like to thank Walter for his expertise. And, you know, as we all go through this and think about what our office was BC before coronavirus, and think about what it will be AC after coronavirus, I think what Walter has shown us here is really, for many of us, the way forward. So, Walter, again, thank you so much. Totally appreciated. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy, and if there's anything we can do, please let us know. Thank you and have a great day.